Hi, I'm Mei Lee with Independent Minds Academy, and I wanted to share a little bit with you about my journey towards homeschooling and my journey toward working with teenagers. Sometimes when people first get to know me and they hear about my 4 high school credentials and my master's degree and things like that, they might get the impression that I was one of those people that really loved school. I remember sitting in my little desk at school looking up at the ceiling tiles. I think in those days that they were asbestos. And the school was so dreary. And I remember I was raised by educators and homeschool wasn't really a thing when I was young. I had never ever heard of it. So I remember coming home and we had so much, like our whole house was lined with books. There was always so much to do and read about, so many interesting things. There were instruments lying around. And then I'd have to kind of go to school and sit in this desk and listen to somebody monologue. So I kind of scraped by with not very great grades. I was always in trouble for, quote, not trying hard enough. But I had such a vivid imagination. I would sit in my desk and I would just be imagining all of these different scenarios and be wondering. And these are all the things that I value. And I try to work into Independent Minds. But what was really missing for me was I didn't really understand the purpose of it. I first heard of homeschooling when I was about 16 years old and it was on the radio. And my friend who had just learned to drive was driving. And I turned to her and I said, I am doing that with my kids. And I really have never turned back. I had a really wonderful teacher in high school. His name was Mr. McIntosh. And he was such an inspiration. We studied history together and he really made it come alive. Not just in a way that where you learn about, what was it like. He really respected us and we did a lot of Socratic dialogue in that class. And it was the first time in school that I really felt like this is really valuable. After high school, I went to Mexico and I spent the summer working in an orphanage. And it was such a powerful experience for me. It was sort of a vision quest. And even at that time, I was already thinking, like, wouldn't it be amazing to be a part of really changing the system? When I came back, I ended up marrying a man that I had met down there. And we had our 3 kids and I started homeschooling right away. Okay. At that point in my life, I was more concerned with whether my kids were finding meaning in their lives than whether they were going to go to college and have the right stamps. It was a radical point of view, but I felt that their sense of purpose would guide them in their lives more than having some sort of certificate. But in the end, I got lucky. The whole time I didn't really feel like I was sure about what I was doing. I felt like I was every day just doing the best I could for my kid that day and trying my hardest to meet their developmental needs and help them grow as human beings. How it ended up turning out was that my kids were wildly successful in school. They were on the dean's list at their colleges. They had full academic scholarships. My one daughter got admitted to Ivy League school. My daughter Emma was top of her class in economics at UC Santa Cruz, and she was number 1. She's a plaque on the wall. And so I was really proud that it ended up turning out that way, but I was willing to risk everything for what I believed in about teens sort of having that vision quest, finding who they are. And I knew that for me, what that meant was that we didn't take a traditional A through G route. I wanted everything they did to be meaningful. After my last daughter left, it was really sad for me, but what I really learned was that I wanted to continue to work in this capacity with teenagers and to continue to do with other teens what I did with my own kids and see how they develop. I wasn't sure how it would work. I know that all of my kids are very, very different and have different learning styles and different approaches and they all have a different sense of self and meaning. But I wasn't sure what it would be like to work with other kids. But I found that really without exception, I was being really able to identify the gifts that each of these teens have. I can't think of an example where we've worked with this amazing potential in each teen and that it hasn't been a wild success. To me, success is measured by how close you are on the path, your own personal path of your own purpose. When I meet teenagers, it's varying as far as the academic levels. When all of these teenagers' needs are being